I don't have a nice little folks like yours. I'm just going to put my little cheat
By all means.
My name is Gigi. A lot of people call me Gigi, but it's Gigi. And I'm a parent coach. And what I do is I specialize particularly in working with parents of children who were born prematurely, children who are, parents whose children are sick or medically vulnerable, and parents of children with special needs. Now, I know that may sound like dreary, but actually it's not. It's quite uplifting, and it's very positive, particularly when you're helping someone reach like a transformative moment in their life and they're actually moving forward. I mean, first of all, how many of you are parents or know parents? Hopefully everyone raise their hand because you have a parent. Okay. You can answer that question, yes. But tonight I want to start off by spending a few minutes just sharing with you just a little glimpse of what parenting is like for the many parents that I get the chance to work with. So I've given everyone a little simple paper. If you can just turn that over, and we're just going to randomly go across and just read in no particular order. Read what's on your slip. Now, one at a time.
My son cannot eat and has an NG2.
My daughter is on her 20th surgery. I still get nervous.
My son has a tracheotomy. I'm nervous that it will slip out and I can't put it back in and it stops breathing.
I never remember to sleepy changing diapers on a 9-year-old.
The baby next to us died last night. So sad for the parents, but deep down I am happy that my little one was spared for one more night.
My daughter has a genetic condition and she looks different. I don't want other kids teasing or staring at her.
We have social bankruptcy.
My son has an unpronounceable genetic condition. All I know is that he doesn't talk, walk, eat, or do anything by himself. I think he smiles, though, with his eyes. I can feel it.
I know that I'm a parent, but I don't feel like one since I've never held my son. The incubator is holding him.
We are constantly fighting with our school to make sure our daughter gets what she needs to succeed. Everyone else seems to have written her off.
Our schedule is built around our child's medical and doctor's appointments.
My child isn't normal and I feel guilty about it.
Okay. Now, guys, those are actual comments from a lot of the people that I've had I think it's a blessing to actually work with them. The social bankruptcy was from my husband. Because we actually have a child with special needs. Our son, and I'll tell you a little more about him, but well, I'll tell you now. Our son was born at 24 weeks in London, England. So he was literally this size, head here and feet here, and stayed in the intensive care unit for about half a year. But because of that, he's legally blind. You've probably seen him. He's a little boy, cute little boy, who has a cane, and that's really one of the main reasons we moved. I'm originally from the U.S., but I was in London for about 10 years, and decided to come back here because he required multiple surgeries, and his specialists were in Michigan, actually not in New York. They're not specialists for what he needs here, surprisingly. But my husband said social bankruptcy because one of the things you find is when you have a child who's chronically sick, which you can probably attest to this, Susan, chronically sick or has special needs, you tend to feel quite isolated because nobody quite, your friends, they love you, your family loves you, but don't really quite understand or really know what to say or how to help you. So what I do with a lot of with all the parents, and also I work with organizations who actually support these I call them special parents and special kids, of these families, is I really help them using a lot of coaching techniques, laughter, because laughter is the best medicine, really try to help them reach a point of optimism, clarity, and direction for their lives. Because oftentimes they kind of feel like, I say they have a lot of what I call pseudo-parents around them, because you have the doctors, the therapists, the nurses, the teachers, everyone, your family telling you how to raise your child. And oftentimes it's a very surreal world, and it's an ongoing journey. It's the best way I can describe it, and what parents tell me is it's like a roller coaster. One day you think you're kind of like, here, and then all of a sudden it's here and it goes down. And sometimes it's the really, 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 really simple things. I work with parents of children who are just been born. What I need to stress is I tend to work with parents whose children have left the hospital, because one of the reasons I kind of started doing what I do is when we were in hospital, there's a lot of support on the children when you're in the hospital. When you leave, or when you've just gotten diagnosed, they kind of give you all the support for the child. There's almost zero support for the parents. And so the parents are kind of left, you kind of sink or swim. And you try to find groups, and you try to figure out how to kind of support yourself. My background, I'm an occupational therapist by background. I specialize mainly in neurology. That's kind of what took me to all over the U.S. and then took me to England. Did project management again within healthcare service. Retrained as a coach and thought I was just going to do, general life coaching or maybe executive coaching. And the saying is life happens when you're making plans. Alejandro came, he didn't tell us he was coming early, but he came early. And so that just changed. But what I realized was there's this massive gap in supporting these parents, basically right after they've left the hospital or right after their child has been diagnosed. The child can be 12 years old, and they probably always knew something's not quite right, not quite sure, maybe afraid to get them tested because they're afraid of what the answer may be. So I realized that this huge group of parents oftentimes lose support when they need it the most. And it's a never ending, not in a bad way, but it's just, you're a parent and you're a parent until whenever. You're always going to be a parent. So I use lots of coaching techniques. I do a lot of one-to-one coaching, do a lot of group coaching. I do workshops, teleseminars, and I've been doing a lot since I've been here, working with, developing contracts with other organizations who service these families. So the March of Dimes, the Resources for Children with Special Needs. I've worked with the Lighthouse on 59th and Lex in providing seminars and workshops for the parents. I'm very much a glass half full than half empty kind of person. So that's how I approach it. And because coaching is very much about starting from where you are and going forward, that's where we move. We don't. A lot of emotions happen when you have a chronically sick child or a child with special needs, and the three main things is anxiety, anger, and guilt, and that they kind of manifest themselves in a range of things. Have a lot of relationship issues because mothers and fathers tend to parent differently, particularly when you have a child who's chronically ill. There's a lot of tension. A lot of you have other siblings. Why does Chelsea get more attention? Because she gets all the doctors and nurses, and I don't get all the attention. I'm just using that now. So all of those kinds of things. So like I mentioned earlier, the isolation, how to be, but also, really, I guess the big thing that I kind of focus on, because parents tend to lose themselves when they have a child, who's chronically ill or who's has special needs or premature. And really what I do is try to help them find themselves again in a very positive way, very forward-moving way. And I think because I'm actually walking in their shoes, we have very similar, different journeys oftentimes, but similar. It helps because I have a unique vantage point. So when they're mouthing, not mouthing off, when they're rattling off all these different terms, I can understand. Or when they say, you know what, 1 second ago I was really, really good, but somebody stared at my child and I just crumbled, or I had one lady whose daughter is 24 years old. She has multiple things, but one of her conditions is she's completely blind. And she said she always knew, she knew, that she was. But she turned 16, and the mother just really lost it because she realized emotionally that a child could never drive. She knew it intellectually, since birth, but it was just so. That's some of those milestones that just kind of hit you when you're least expecting it. But what I try to bring to parents is, taking one step at a time, and we do lots of. My approach is very interactive. It's very compassionate, very personal, very approachable. I hope, but it's really about. What is it that you want to do? What is it that you want to achieve? And it could actually change. It could change. I tend to work with, when I do one-to-one, I tend to work with people initially for 3 months, and then depending on where we are, we may extend or we may stop and we may start again. And what I'm wanting to do, let's we're talking about service, what we're trying to do. What I'm wanting to do is really start working a lot with organizations, particularly in companies and employees who work, because I think now they have a lot of like employee wellness type programs, you know, because even if you have a child with special needs, you still have to go to work. You still have to, your life still happens. So I'm looking to try to, you know, get more into those type of, I don't know if I need to go through HR or whatever, but trying to get more into being kind of like the expert within that field. Because like I said, there's a lot of support in the hospital when you first get diagnosed. There's not a lot of support afterwards, and that's really when you need it the most. And I'm also trying to do more public speaking, so trying to go to organizations and doing more public speaking. And through, I have a testimony too. I've been working with Janet and with Jamie, who's a book publisher.
Yeah.
And I've had this book in my head for like 1,000 years, and she's helping me make it a reality. And that's just since this group started.
Oh, excellent.
So that's a testimony. So that's me. So it's really, I know those stories sound like, oh no, it's heavy. It's actually really, really, really amazingly powerful to see someone who maybe has lost hope along the way and it's really felt like, you know, I really can't do this, get to the point to say, you know, actually I can. And they start finding their voices. I may start crying. They start finding their voices again, because oftentimes you lose your voice because everyone's telling you what to do. And not only that, their child starts finding their voice, and their child starts, you know, becoming, you know, if they're able to, being able to be more confident, you know, and you know, be a productive member of society. So, if you know of anybody that you know that would need my services, or you want me to come speak, or you have any questions, don't ask. No, seriously, any questions?
I wrote down a bunch. Does anyone else have any before I start like the lightning round? Okay.
Did you read the Sunday's Times about a single mother who has a kid with autism, and she would like to date again, but as soon as a prospective man finds her interesting, and she feels she has to tell him that she has a kid with autism, the date runs away. So she just has to get used to the fact she feels of being forever alone. So just somehow your stories reminded me of that argument.
That would actually, part of the book that I'm wanting to write is, it will be a combination of stories, but also lots of really practical coaching techniques, and then a lot of Gigi-isms, because I make up stuff in my head, you know. But it's interesting because a lot of the kind of relationship thing comes up around that about, because unfortunately a lot of marriages and fall apart, particularly when you have a chronically sick child. And so that I actually know one family that's happened to, and that her story would be presented in that, you know, how do I, it's part of finding something, how do I, you know, present myself, because eventually somebody will come that will embrace not just her, but her whole family, but it's, you know, it is about kind of, you know, going through the roller coaster. Yeah.
So.
Rick has a question.
Oh, please.
Are your services covered by insurance policies?
You know, I'm just looking into, at the moment, no. But I'm looking into that, and that was one of the reasons I'm trying to get into some of the employee wellness type organizations, because I've had a few parents recently ask me that. At the moment, what I'm trying to do, when I work with organizations, of course organizations pay me. And so the parents don't pay me directly, but when I'm doing one-to-one, they do. But because I know that, you know, as a parent in general, particularly if you have, you know, ongoing medical conditions, the cost is astronomical. And that was one thing, you know, Alejandro was born, this is my little one's name, was born in London, and in socialized medicine, so we didn't pay. You know, and then we moved here, and he had his first surgery. It was $10,000, and I was thinking, okay, do I want to come back home? Do I want to go back? You know, it's just like wow. And I know, you know, as the children are still, you know, going through procedures, and they're getting bills for thousands and thousands of dollars. So, but I'm looking into that. I haven't quite tapped into that yet, but that's something I do want to be able to offer. So watch this space.
Okay, thank you.
So how do parents generally find your services? So someone gets that report from the doctor, or so on, however they come about hearing this news, how would they then find you?
Well, that's what I'm working on. But actually, no, it's at the moment, it's been word of mouth, and I'm actually going out to different organizations presenting myself.
Okay.
And I've actually connected with a pediatrician's office down in Murray Hill who specializes particularly in at-risk children. So, not just kids who are born early, but kids maybe who are full-term and have other medical conditions. So we've been working on some joint things together. So we're doing cross-referrals and stuff as well.
I see.
So because I've only been back in the States for about 3 years, and even though I retrained as a coach in England, when we came here primarily because Alejandro needed so many surgeries, and we came here a week afterwards. We were in surgery, and really for about 2 years we've been part of social bankruptcy. We've been kind of going back and forth with the doctors, and I've just in the past year have kind of gotten to the point where I've really begin to establish myself, and so at the moment I'm just connecting with all kinds of organizations. On Twitter, I've gotten, on LinkedIn, I'm connecting with groups, and so at the moment it's word of mouth, and through organizations that I've come in contact with. So,
very cool.
And I'm beginning to also start to work, speaking with a couple of schools now about doing some things within the school systems, because there are a lot of public school systems who have children who are mainstream, but they have related services like speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy. Right. So it's about supporting those parents as well too within the school system.
Okay. So you work primarily with the parents?
Yes.
Not with the children?
No. In a way, I'm going the child will benefit, and ultimately, but my main goal are the parents. Because oftentimes they are the ones that's going to hold it together, and oftentimes they get lost in the mix. Because there is a lot of support for the children, particularly in New York. Right. We found New York is one of the few states that offer a huge amount of resources, both financial and human resources, with early intervention services. No matter what you have, they really provide a lot more in comparison to other states. So the children tend to get a lot of support. I'm not saying they get everything, they get a lot of support. The parents are the ones that, become unstuck oftentimes, and kind of not expected to become unstuck. So that's why I tend to focus on them. And because it's, it's kind of ongoing.
So if no one else had anything, I just wanted to know, what would be a way that perhaps wouldn't be obvious that we may be able to help?
That would be obvious.
So obviously, if we know people that sort of maybe going through something like you're describing, obviously we'll be able to be a great point of referral. But are there any ways that sort of perhaps we wouldn't think of on our own, or at least I wouldn't? I don't know. You may all be really smart, but that I wouldn't come to on my own.
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Wait, you're saying
how would we?
Yeah, how what are ways that we as a group may be able to sort of assist, build the business?
Oh, I was trying to figure out something on my own. Okay, I misunderstood the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
You have cards, maybe?
Oh yeah,
we could just refer her name and number to our friends, or
possibly our employers if
Yeah.
you're looking to get into.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm thinking about.
That's
Sort of other organizations we may know and things like that.
Right.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. And then if you do have children, like providing my cards in their pediatrician's offices, but yeah, if your employer, that would be great. Because I think one of the things, particularly when you're talking about within work, many parents don't want to share because they feel like, they feel even embarrassed, or because sometimes it may say, people may think, oh, she's out again, kind of thing. So oftentimes they don't want to share, and I'm beginning to work a lot more now with fathers, because also oftentimes they're the invisible parent. you know, and they have feelings too, and they go, but many times the mother's kind of the dominant, you know, as far as who's making all the decisions and who the physician or therapist talks to. So, and oftentimes the fathers are the ones that are, you know, they kind of lose themselves in their work because it's hard for them to kind of express themselves. So that would be great if they're, if, you know, or your particular organizations that you work with, if you could, and even if it's not a, you know, health organization or you know, or a hospital or whatever, you know, just to put cards in, that would be really, really good. Yeah.
Yes, I think I should be able to give you a contact. My brother has schizophrenia, and he's been with it for like 14 years. But he's back in India, so you know, I try to like help him as much as I can through different kinds of programs and workshops that happen here for families to benefit how to handle a person like that. And the Fountain House, have you heard about the Fountain House?
No.
Yes, I know the directors there, and of course, they, you know, the concept is pretty similar to what you're talking about, but not for the parents, but for the kids or adults suffering from schizophrenia. And I think that could be a very good part of sources for you, because the parents surely are going through a lot of struggles, and I know what it is, you know, dealing with people with schizophrenia. Yeah, I'd be more than happy to reach out, connect the directors to you.
Oh, thank you. I would really appreciate that. And that, I seriously, I did a teleseminar, and I had, it's a free teleseminar, just on the term disability, you know, kind of like, you know, different, we actually call it different abilities versus disability, kind of having a positive spin on it. And we had people calling from Canada, from India, from South Africa, from, you know, different, it was just so amazing. It was such a learning experience for me to see how, you know, if you have a child who's sick or with special needs, how it's viewed in other countries as well. Oftentimes, you know, in some ways it's here too. What if you know, even if you say you have a child that's prematurely, what did you do? Did you not do, you know, did you not, you know, were you down on bed rest? It's kind of that kind of same thing, but in other countries it's even more profound, and oftentimes services. So that was really, really interesting to kind of get a huge amount of feedback and, you know, just stories from people all over the world who are, you know, we're walking the same journey. So I know that, I really appreciate that. That would be great.
Absolutely.
Wow. Very cool.
Do you have any kind of marketing material